All right, here we go again. This is welcome back. This is Contact Report 97. Hopefully, we hear some good news about Semjase. Anyway, this was translated by the DeepL translator. Corrections and improvements made Catherine Mossman and Joseph Darmanin. Contact person is Quetzal. Also, I'll let you know I have started putting the link at the future of mankind for all these contact reports. I'll put that in the description from now on. So if you want to read through this yourself and you can't deal with my boring voice, you're more than welcome to do that. I'll put the link in the description. Okay, contact report 97, Wednesday, 28 December 1977 at 20:08 hours. That's 8 minutes after 8 p.m. Quetzal, unfortunately, I was not given the opportunity to get in touch with you earlier because the changes due to Semjase's temporary failure took too much of my time. Billy, that is understandable, but who should take her place now, and how long can you expect her not to be here? Quetzal, Isados has already taken up her position on behalf, probably for 6 to 7 months. Billy, oh dear, then we have to wait for the girl? Quetzal, that will not be the case because Semjase will be back in 2 or 3 months. Only she will not be able to take over her job before the deadline. Billy, that sounds much better. But do you assume that Isados will be up to his task? You know, he seems very unknowing to me in terms of his understanding and knowledge of us Earth humans, etc. Quetzal, that is of correctness, for he is very unknowing about this, but not about his direct task. Because of his unknowingness about you human beings of the earth, he will not maintain any contact with you either, because the knowledge required for this is extremely deficient. It is therefore planned that Manara, Playa, and I will take over this task until Semjase is operational again. They talk like she's a computer or something. She's getting a reboot. Okay, Billy, that is fine with me too. I have only seen you very rarely anyway. Especially, I have only. Let me start again. Billy, that is fine with me too. I have only seen you very rarely anyway, especially Playa. Playa's Semjase's sister. But what about all the letters and other things I receive from different group members for Semjase? Do you answer them now? Quetzal, this will hardly be possible. Also, it might be very difficult for Semjase in the future to get involved in such matters. Billy, do you mean that everything she has had so far may no longer be answered by her? That would be very unfortunate. Quetzal, unfortunately, this will be the case, my dear friend, because for a very long time she will not be allowed to burden herself much anymore, which is why it will be the case that Playa, in particular, will become her sister's constant companion for the next few years, for which she already works very strictly and prepares herself for this work. Even though Semjase has not suffered any damage from the misfortune that has befallen her, she is still very challenged and needs a lot of relief over a long period of time. Therefore, in the future, she will only carry out directive tasks, and indeed in the form that others will have to carry out her orders with regard to their own task. Even though the Sonaer, Sonaer, even though the Sonaer were able to save her brain through their very advanced science, the entire process of transforming the artificial protoplasma form of the brain parts takes several years, during which Semjase must not suffer any overexertion. Billy, I do not quite understand, because this twit Isados told me that through a quick healing process, everything was in perfect order again. He don't care much for Isados. Okay, Quetzal. This is indeed of correctness, but he has no further knowledge about the fact that the artificial plasma form of the new brain parts has to be transformed into physical plasma, which takes several years, namely 3 to 4 years. Billy, this means that this artificial brain plasma has to undergo a transformation process in order to become a natural plasma form. But why is that, Quetzal? Quetzal, the brain forms of every life form are equal to the seat of the respective spiritual life form, thus, in two respects, the direct control center of the life form. As such, let me do that again. Quetzal, the brain forms of every life form are equal to the seat of the respective spiritual life form. Thus, in two respects, the direct control center of the life form. As such, as a control center, it requires special maintenance and energy supply. This maintenance and energy supply now takes place through the cosmic electromagnetic life energy, which, as driving and maintenance energy as well as nourishing energy, feeds, receives, and maintains the brain forms material nature and spiritual nature, and indeed in a neutral manner. This means that only life-supporting impulses, nutrients, etc., are emitted from this energy, but no healing impulses and regeneration impulses. This means that no healing process can take place if this control center is injured or simply damaged in any manner. The brain cannot regenerate or heal itself if it is damaged organically or pathologically. If artificial plasma forms have been connected in Semjase's brain, they still represent foreign bodies that would lead to the destruction of the brain in the long run. Consequently, this artificial plasma form, which had to be created specifically according to all the properties of Semjase's brain plasma form, was impregnated with equally special conversion impulses, which will result in the artificial plasma form, which represents an energetic life, transforming into natural plasma forms over a period of 3 to 4 years, in cooperation with the cosmic electromagnetic life energy. Billy, you explained that so well that even I understand it, although I have no faint haze of an understanding about such things. But now another question. You said that these Sonaer, Sonaer, these Sonaer helped Semjase. Can you tell me more about them? I would like to know how old they are, what race they are, what culture they have, etc. Quetzal, I am ignorant about that. Only this much I know about them, is that they are a human race of the Dals universe, whose average age of 1,360 Earth years is far superior to our life expectancy. Their body size is 175 centimeters according to earthly measure, whereby their skull form is much higher and longer than ours, as I could determine. The length of the head is about 25% more than that of us and you. Their race is called Sona in a language unknown to me, and their overall development in technical and medical terms corresponds to 4,000 years more than ours. These people are 4,000 years ahead of the Plejaren. That's saying something. That is all I know about them. Billy, thank you very much. But tell me, why do you say that they are 4,000 years ahead of you? Isidore said that this was true for Asket's people. That is of correctness, but we have now reached the same level with the help of the Timmers. The Timmers are Asket's people. That is of correctness, but we have now reached the same level with the help of the Timmers. Sorry, I misspoke with 4,000 years in relation to the Sonir. Billy, who is that again? Quetzal, these are the people from whom Ask It originates. Billy, aha, I did not know that before either because I never asked her for the name of her people. But while we are at it, do you know what these Timmers call our universe? Quetzal, that is no secret. They call it Dern Universe. Billy, and what do you call it? Quetzal, our universe is also called Dern Universe. Billy, that is how we talk about the Dern Universe in the future. But now another question. If these Sonirn can already renew brains, is there not the possibility that human beings can live much longer and reach higher stages of evolution? Quetzal, you know very well that your question is unusually illogical. Billy, of course, I know that, but this question does not come from me either. I know very well that it is possible, through such brain interventions and manipulations, whose forms, etc., are incomprehensible and unknown to me, to prolong the life of a human being by centuries or millennia, but only up to the point where the body becomes barren of any regeneration. Such manipulation, however, cannot lead to the life of the life form in question becoming endless, or even only relatively endless, because the spirit leaving the body must inevitably take place sooner or later, if an evolutionary process is to take place. This is because everything collected in life must also be transformed into knowledge and wisdom in a spiritual form, that is, in the realms of the afterlife. If this change process would suddenly fall flat, then the material consciousness would one day become stupid, and the spirit form would stagnate. It must therefore be the case that every form of life has a certain and corresponding lifespan, only depending on the state of its knowledge and the possibility of evolution. Quetzal, that is very correctly expressed. Billy, thank you. But now again a question regarding the Sonir, who are so highly developed. What is their technology? Quetzal, it already corresponds to forms that we ourselves cannot yet understand. They are far superior to us in the control of space and time, but also in all other things. Billy, how, for example, do they master time and space to reach Era, and how do they master the passage through the barriers of the universe? Quetzal, they no longer need space-traveling flying apparatuses for this, because their technology is already anchored and deeply embedded in the transmitter area. Billy, oh dear, once again I do not understand anything about that. Only Herbert has told me about it several times. Quetzal, if you like, I will teach you to the best of my knowledge, but the part of my knowledge is not very big either. Billy, sure, it will be a lot for me, but now that I am ready with my questioning, recently, to my astonishment, I have discovered that I know various things as knowledge, which are described in a utopian series of writings. For example, I could explain several things to Herbert without ever having read this literature. There are many things in my memory that I know very well, but which I cannot classify anywhere. Is it possible that you can give me information about it? Quetzal, unfortunately, this is not possible for me, because this part of your life and your personalities in former existences falls exclusively into the range of Semjase's tasks. You would therefore have to ask them personally at a later date. If you want, then I could try a little bit, but I would need some information. Billy, no, just leave it. Then I will wait until Semjase is here again. But tell me, does the 30-kilometer ban imposed on me still exist? Quetzal, Either way, I wanted to tell you today that this restriction has been lifted for you for a few days, so you can move freely again, but only under appropriate protective measures. You should not move further away from the center without arming yourself appropriately. Furthermore, I have to explain to you that you can set the centerpiece in the center and therefore do not have to wait until February. In a much shorter time than expected, I succeeded in developing the corresponding equipment and installing it in the monitoring disc, so that you can now perform the relocation without having to install any further aids. Billy, man, you are relieving me of a gigantic worry. Thank you so much. It would be much more comfortable for me if the centerpiece is no longer hanging directly in the center. But now I have another question. Semjase once tried to explain to me weeks ago why you do not just associate with us Earth humans, especially in physical form. Somehow it sounded from her words that a danger is connected with it for you. Quetzal, it is indeed the truth, and I too can explain it to you. Of all the reasons you have already given for this, none is as important as the one you have just mentioned. Semjase has talked to me about this, which is why I am oriented towards it. The reason that we cannot connect with you human beings of the earth in physical form is this. The levels of swinging waves between the human... I keep screwing up, sorry. The levels of swinging waves between the human being on the earth and us are so fundamentally different and pronounced in the forms of the negative and the positive as well as the balanced that this can lead to serious consequences if they touch each other. As a rule, these human swinging waves reach up to 90 meters, which is why it must be ensured that this distance is not breached, meaning that Earth humans do not reach us under this distinctive mark. Our swinging waves are very highly sensitive, and we ourselves react equally highly sensitively to oscillations that penetrate our oscillation range. In contrast to the terrestrial humans, we are very high in our consciousness-based overall development, 20 to 35 million years ahead of the terrestrial humans, which is why our entire swinging wave system has refined. If the swinging waves of the much less sensitive human being on the earth were to strike us now, precisely because earthly human and thus also quite unbalanced and negative swinging waves would penetrate into the area of our swinging waves, then this would amount to a very strong swinging wave structural agitation, which in reality also embodies it, which would have the consequence that the strong external influence would lead to an instantaneous uncontrollability of all reactions, thoughts, and actions in us, which would at the same time trigger uncontrolled feelings of fear. Now, I'm kind of guessing that's what happened to Semjase when Jacobus snuck up to the back door of the Sohar Center. It screwed her up. She fell down and hit her head, and that's how she got in trouble. Anyway, this means that when the swinging waves of an Earth human meet us, who unfortunately still emits very negative swinging waves today, we would be affected in many respects in momentary speed and start to act uncontrollably, which is also the case with Semjase when she fell in the center and suffered the severe injury. Okay, sorry. As a rule, when we go among terrestrial people, which is very rarely the case, we use a device that protects us from terrestrial human swinging waves. But this was never necessary for you because you are free of these swinging waves through all your knowledge and equalizedness, according to which it comes very close to ours. In the center, now a certain protective ring, a small protective screen was established, which keeps away such swinging waves of the terrestrial humans. This protective shield, however, is only of limited strength, so only directly for the center itself. But in the lower space, still weak radiation from outside can enter if someone goes directly to the entrance or to the outer wall. Now, when Jacobus was at the outer door, his swinging wave penetrated to Semjase and produced in it the fear and uncontrollability I described earlier, which drove her to an uncontrolled action. The consequences of this are known to you. These swinging wave structure agitations, which are dangerous for us, together with our strict directives, are the main reason why we are not allowed to engage in physical contact with terrestrial humans. Even with our telepathic or even only inspirational impulse-based contacts, we have to exercise extreme caution because thrown back impulse-based swinging waves also have similar effects. Billy, then you are quite susceptible. Quetzal, you are speaking a true word. But our sensitivity in this regard is not only based on our evolution, because our homeland is also a very important factor in this, because it in itself is highly sensitized, which does not remain untainted to us human life forms. Let me read that again. You are speaking a true word, but our sensitivity in this regard is not only based on our evolution, because our homeland is also a very important factor in this, because it itself is highly sensitized, which does not remain untainted to us human life forms. Billy, I do not quite understand that, Quetzal, but I have been trying to fathom it for a long time. Semjase once made a rather strange remark to me. This led me to speculate, which is why I assume that you live on your Pleiades in a differently dimensioned form. But this I mean that you are probably up there in our universe and in our time, as Semjase once explained to me, but that you are dimensionally shifted, namely in a parallel system of our Pleiades. Am I right in assuming this? Unfortunately, even on my great journey, the facts of the matter were not explained to me in detail, so I still see certain things unclearly. Quetzal, how were you able to fathom this? These concerns should be explained to you only in 1979 exactly and in the necessary details. Billy, I told you, Semjase once made a rather funny remark which led me to this assumption. Quetzal, she should not have done that. But now that you are talking about it, I want to explain a few things to you. Billy, it was not her intention either, because how many times did I get something out of her without her wanting to give me any information about it? So she did not even know that she was giving me an answer to something I was interested in. Quetzal, I understand you are a master at this. Well, if you already know, it is like you say. But this does not change anything because we are just as compact and present in this dimension of ours as we are in that of our Pleiades system. Because we are descended from this dimension and also from your dimension. Why we live in a parallel dimension on Era and in our Pleiades system in general is due to the fact that the Pleiades systems are not habitable for us in this dimension, your dimension, and could not be made habitable by our ancestors either, because the system for habitation is still much too young for us in this dimension. Billy, your explanation is plausible, but what is the nature of the Pleiades system in the other dimension? Is it as solid as our Earth? Quetzal, it is a parallel dimension. That is what I said. Therefore, matter is also of the same strength as the Earth's matter. The dimensions are simply different in their structure, but not in time and space. Billy, I do not understand that. Quetzal, Your knowledge of this is not enough to make it understandable to you. Billy, okay, let us just drop it. Does not make sense after all. I only ever understand the main point, but at least I am smart enough to understand the shift. Quetzal, you really would not understand. Billy, all right, Quetzal, it is not that bad. There is only one thing I cannot figure out yet. When you said that you were so susceptible to swinging waves, I forgot something that I did not realize until now and that I do not understand. When my cannibal was once in the center, his cannibal, he's talking about his wife, Calliope. He calls her a cannibal. Actually, I think it was Ptah started that. Okay. When my cannibal was once in the center, Semjase appeared there, after which she put cannibal into a deep sleep. Apparently, Semjase was not affected by the presence. Can you tell me why or why not? It does not make sense to me, and somehow there seems to be a contradiction in your explanation. Quetzal, it is just an apparent contradiction, as you rightly note. You completely forgot that this cannibal was in the actual center itself, which is also completely shielded from the bottom. That is, in the descent opening downwards, and therefore nothing of swinging waves and the like can penetrate downwards. Billy, that's plausible. I forgot all about that. Quetzal, right, you just forgot. But, my dear friend, I can only guess who this cannibal is, which is why I mentioned your illusion earlier. As far as I know, Semjase was with you only once when someone was also doing their time at the center at the same time. I find that you use quite unusual names for those you are very fond of. But this is your manner and speaks for itself. Nevertheless, I would like to hear from you who you call cannibal. Billy, gladly. Yes, just grin. I call my wife that because I find that this designation for her from my side, ... Quetzal, that, that is really humorous. Besides, ... Billy, just grin, you monster, and make fun of it until I pull your ears out. Quetzal, it is really funny how you show your affection, only that is why I am amused. Do not be upset about it. Billy, certainly not, my son. I already understand the joke. It's just a quick note. I cracks me up. Billy calls him his son. Billy is 69 years old, and Quetzal is like 400 and something. But Billy's a lot more advanced spiritually, I believe, than Quetzal is. Billy, certainly not, my son. I understand a joke. Quetzal, I like it. The name is really splendid. May I call her that? I would really enjoy it. By the way, the name goes well with her when I think about all things. Billy, I will ask her and then tell you. Maybe she does not mind. Apparently, you are following in Semjase's exact footsteps, huh? Quetzal, maybe. Slowly I understand better why Semjase has changed so much since she is in contact with you. Her humor, which she had never known before in its present form, seems to come from you. It is obviously a special characteristic of yours, and if I acquire some of it myself, then it is probably only for my benefit. Billy, look now, you are getting selfish. Quetzal, no, my friend, definitely not, but I know from Semjase that she is very comfortable with your jokes. But now you should return, because my time begins to push and I have to go. What I should explain to you is that Semjase let me know that when she is back with us, she will not seek her contacts with you again in the center for the time being. Unfortunately, the event led to a change in her mind, but also in my case, according to which you will have to travel wide and long distances again in the future to reach us. Unfortunately, the danger is too great. if someone should again try to penetrate into the center when we are there. Billy, that is a pity, but I understand you already. Somehow I expected such a decision from you already. It is really very unfortunate, but I do not want to push you to change your mind. I accept your decision. Quetzal, we expected your understanding and we thank you for it. Finally, I have a joyful message to convey to you, to all the members of the group, because I am to send you all very, very dear greetings from Semjase, which she sent me for you this afternoon. Now farewell, my dear friend, and pass along greetings for me to all of you. Billy, also greet Semjase from all of us and tell her that all of us wish her the best and hope that we will hear from her again soon. Take care, Quetzal. Goodbye. Quetzal, goodbye, and I will transmit your words to Semjase. That is the end of Contact Report 97. They talk about all kinds of cool stuff. They talk about swinging waves. They talk about, well, anyway. Thanks for hanging out with me. And this was a pretty big contact report. A lot of cool information. So, what did I say? This was 97. So I will see you again on 98 when I get a chance. Again, thanks for following. See ya. Bye.